start with the koi industry, with the koi fish?
It's a very nice hobby to be in. I mean, like we're discussing today, what do you have to do when you're coming from work? You can't sit all day for a TV. So that was my dad, was the original seed planting by keeping this koi. And see, remember in those years, there wasn't anything like profi drums and stuff like that. They had to use the old boererate manier and salt, and then it's this. So there wasn't any development or TV programs or people like you and experts that treating and YouTube channels and people that go to Japan and buying koi. There was nothing like that. You're buying a fish from a pet shop and you try to let it stay alive. And I think that's where the challenge, and my dad was, you know, you could see he was trying to do it, but he was always battling because the information wasn't there and the technology wasn't there at the end of the day.
Right.
And I think I like challenges, and I think that's why I started with the hobby, because it's a thing that nature is bringing up, and no human can create such a thing like that. If you check the colors when they're coming up for the food, it's next level in this world.
Hi everybody. Tonight we're sitting at the fireplace and at the beautiful home of Steve Smith, and we are going to be talking today, or tonight at least, about just some general things that may help you with your koi collection, and sort of just hear from Steve what he's experienced over the years that may save lives in your koi pond and give you some really good tips. Steve, thank you very much once again for your time. Greatly appreciate, and your hospitality at your beautiful home and all these beautiful koi fish. Obviously, I'm saying beautiful koi fish because, you know, we always say that when a person has kept fish for 10 years and longer, you know, I regard them as an expert. And that's very, very definitely that what the koi industry sees you as one of the top guys in the country as far as koi fish are concerned. So I want to just understand from your side, 2016 was obviously the benchmark where people looked up and realized who Steve Smith is all about in terms of the koi. If you can take us just a little bit of a background in terms of how you got ready for 2016.
Yeah, like we're discussing this afternoon, it's all about the water when it comes back to koi. Like I said to you, if you're running a fish tank or you're running a koi pond, it all goes back to the water quality. And 2016, I had a lot of tosai and a lot of nisai. And I was just feeding the koi the healthiest food I can get and giving them healthy water that you can, you know, the best at your availability.
Yeah.
And when I entered the fish at the show, and everybody complimented and said, yes, your white looks good, and your sumi and your red looks good. And I thought, well, if you're doing the water parameters right, and you give him the right food, you can make an impression. And you don't have to spend a fortune on the end of the day. So basically it comes down from buying the koi small or nisai and making the right choices. And then you can achieve the best koi on the show at the end of the day. So for me, it's a better achievement to buy a smaller koi and you can grow it out to be nisai, sansai, and get a award like that. There's nothing more, in Afrikaans we call it, het geeft jou plezier. It gives you much pleasure than bringing on a bigger koi and then bringing a smaller one, grow it out and you win a prize with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it gave me so much joy, and realized over the years, you get books and you get people's information, but you learn out of your own mistakes. And that's why you're bringing up the koi and enter it to show, and you get a surprise by winning a Supreme or a Reserve Grand Champion or Grand Champion. So it gives you motivation in life, and it's like a challenge. You know, it's an addiction that I can't explain to anybody, but I think it's coming back to keeping the koi, growing them out, and keeping the water parameters in place. But again, you need to have the right filter systems, And it's not something you can just let go, and even if you've got a right filter system, it's something that you need to put your hand on and keep it that way. Anything can go wrong. Like we're discussing this often, the pH can drop for rain. Anything can happen to that pond. You get wild birds into your pond, you get frogs into the pond, and they all carry diseases. So you need to put your hand on it and just be a water doctor. The fish can keep itself.
Yeah.
Basically, it comes down to that, and that's about it.
So the saying that the Japanese have, learn how to keep water, then you have fish, is the ultimate.
I mean, any living creature on this life, if you give him the right food, you give him the right living conditions, what do you expect? You get the best out of it.
Yes.
Even your dogs, your cats, your birds, whatever you have, give him the right conditions and they can look after themselves. You know, the first time when a guy said to me, the fish is stressed, I thought, yeah, but we humans getting stressed, how can a fish be stressed? And keeping all these years koi and the conditions not right, your nitrates is high, your ammonia is high, you can see the fish is not happy. And that's the way they're stressing, and they show it to you. So by sitting every day at your pond, feeding them, that's why you're learning their behavior. Koi is resting on the floor, they doesn't tell they're sick. They also rest on the floor.
Yes.
So by every day spending the time just enjoying your koi, you learn by their behavior. And that's the way you're keeping the koi. You learn what the conditions, what they're doing there in the day, what they eat, how many they eat. And that's what's driving you, and see, you can quickly pick up if something goes wrong.
You mentioned something very interesting today as we were having a look at the program filtration systems and you know, and all the various ponds that you've got.
Oh, yeah.
You were saying that one of the most important things that you concentrate on is that the water is constantly renewed.
Yes.
In its process. In other words, fresh water is constantly coming through the system per se.
Yeah.
And that is one of the secrets. Am I
That's
right?
that's 100% correct. You can have the best filter system in the world. Remember, we're taking these fish out of nature and we're putting them in concrete ponds.
Exactly.
So the whole scenario where you got a river running through rocks, plants, grass, the nature is dealing with all that hazardous ammonia, nitrates by washing this water.
Correct.
Now we're taking it out of nature and put it in a concrete pond. So what do you expect? So the filters, yes, definitely it's helping. Mechanical is one stage, biological is another stage. If you can divide those two, you're already on the right path. Right. But still, every time you feed a fish, I said to the new guys in the game, think of you throwing toxin into the koi. Imagine every time you throw that food in, where does that food go to? It's turning into waste. What is waste turning into?
Correct.
Ammoniac rises, nitrate rises. So you will learn the behavior of the koi every time you feed them. You will see. I said to the guys, 3 minutes for me. If they don't finish the food, don't give them more food. And that's why you need to sit down with them. You've got the right filters, but still you need to look at every koi while they're feeding, and then you're on the right track. You can't expect the fish to live in water. You're spending how many money on filter systems, but on the end of the day, you need the fresh water to run into the pond to keep the balance right as
Constantly,
well.
yes.
Because you're washing the old water time after time, but it still gets down. So you need to put that 10% trickle in for me each day to get a constant turnover of your water by the end of the day. Now, you can run basically a small pond, but not feeding much, and you can get away without water changes. But we're in a different league where we're comparing at koi shows, so we want the koi to grow large. And you want the skin color to develop as well. So that all plays a part in how you treat the water and what you do about the water. So it depends all on what you're going to have. You're going to have a pond with just a nice water feature, then you can get away without water changes and, you know, simple filters, but still divide your mechanical and biological. Stay same to basically the same thing. I think in this country we need experience and people that you learn from that's for many years in the hobby. That's the only way you're going to get forward and enjoy your hobby.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because we were talking about it just now. The minute that you and I believe that we know everything, we're already in trouble. So what we were talking about just now is that, and also for the viewers also to understand very clearly, is that this is a work in progress for all of us. As we learn, we wanting to share.
That's it.
And that's exactly why we're speaking to one of the top hobbyists in the country, yourself, just to share with everybody, somebody that's new to the game. You know, you can start off with a 50 Rand koi and you can grow it on, like you said just now, into something phenomenal. It's entirely up to yourself in terms of your husbandry skills, of how well you look after that fish. And that fish will reward you. Yes, genetics play a game and everything else, but 90% I do believe is how you look after that fish through its processes and keeping the immune system as strong as possible. I want to ask you a question. You have been well known for the fact that by the time that you get to the koi show, people say, how do you possibly get such beautiful white coming out?
Yeah.
Can you share a little secret of potassium permanganate then?
Yeah, you know, I get many calls where the oak is by the point of giving up the hobby and listen, this is a simple, they call it a boerenraad in Afrikaans, but it's basically stuff that you buy at the chemist for a couple of rands. It's called Cornish crystals, and you mix it at 5.5 gram per 1,000 liter with adding salt with it, and by that way you're cleaning the skin.
How much salt?
Basically, I'm going up to 3
Right.
kilos per 1,000
Per
liter.
1,000,
Per
right.
1,000 liter. Now, there's times that you receive Japanese fish that you can see the bacterial infection is locking heavy on it. So you can go up to 4 or 5.
Okay.
But again, stay on your 1.5 gram per 1,000 potassium, but you can push the salt up to 5 on the end of the day. But oxygen is very important when using potassium. But 99, I would say 99.5% that all bad bacteria doesn't stand a chance against potassium.
Okay.
Now, we've tried to use this antibiotic, this one, that one. You changing, swap and changing. You send fish to, you take a, what do you call it, a swap.
Yes.
And send it to a lab, and they come back and telling you this is what you need. You inject the fish and hope it turn out to be good. But at the end of the day, it doesn't work. So for all the years that I've been dealing with Japanese fish, potassium is a magical muti that's working with all bacterial infections. Even in killing, serious stuff like Kostia. Roy Pillay mentioned and said something, but it doesn't stand a chance against flukes. I said to him, is that what you're saying, that you tried against flukes? How many treatments have you done about it? I mean, it's like you going to the doctor and get antibiotics from it. It's saying on the box, finish the course. Doesn't help you took it for 2 days, 3 days, and you're feeling better afterwards.
That's a very good point you make.
So, what I'm saying to the people is, do your 5 treatments. Stay with it. You can't see the fish, but that's right. As long as they don't come up for air, you know the fish is fine.
Right.
For all these years, that's what I need to rely on is potassium, and it works for me.
Well, I'm glad you say that because, a lot of times, of course, there will be, people that will critique that. And, for many years myself, I have been extremely careful when it comes to a mineral in a water like such as salt and the oxidation of potassium permanganate with anything like that, because you can't actually put potassium permanganate in a mud dam, for instance, to oxidize, because it oxidizes so much. But what you actually was saying today is that you keep the potassium permanganate at a point that it is purple.
For at least, and that's where the trick comes in, for at least 6 to 10 hours maximum.
Right.
Then you start need to doing water changes. Now,
so
where
that's
most people
important.
make the mistake is dilute it with peroxide.
Right.
Or Ikari brings in a super good chemical, it's called Ultimate.
Right.
It dilutes it in 2 minutes.
Sure.
But the problem with that is it stays in the water.
Right.
So your follow-up treatment is going to be put on hold because you need to wait for that peroxide or the Ultimate to get out of the water so you can add the second and the third and the fourth and the fifth dosement.
Yes.
Otherwise, parasites working in a funny way. You can't believe it. The potassium will kill the adults, but it won't kill the eggs.
Right.
So that's where it comes important to do a follow-up treatment, like your antibiotic.
Yes.
You need to follow the course and finish it
Right.
to get rid of everything.
Okay.
And you will see when a fish come out of the potassium, like you saw yourself, the skin is as white as silk.
Yes.
You can't imagine how that potassium get rid of all the slime and the excess bacteria on the fish skin. It's unbelievable how good it actually is. And the best thing about it, it doesn't cost you a fortune.
Yes. Yes.
So koi already cost us a lot of money, the food, the water, the filters. Now you have to pay lots for your medicine as well. And I mean, by the end of the day, people like Carl is having a 200,000 liter pond. So what is already made up liquid and some chemicals costing to treat a pond? So it's costing the ouch a fortune. Instead of going to a pharmacist and you pay 30, 40 odd rand for a bottle of Cornish crystals, potassium, and you treat the whole pond of it.
The important thing is that I just wanted to also find out is many people, when we talk about potassium permanganate, to say your biological filtration will collapse. Now, in your opinion, and again I must say to the viewers, it's your opinion, it's your expertise of what we found, and it's your passion of what you've found over the years that works for you, and clearly it does, of what I've seen today for sure.
Of course, we
from a
throw in the
biological
chemical,
perspective,
yeah.
how do you cope with that?
Any chemical will influence your biological
Good
stage.
point.
So when you finish with the treatment, you need to slowly start bringing the feeding regime back. So remember, the filter is getting harmed, you need to bring it slowly and steady up. What I said to you earlier today, fish can deal with ammonia, can deal with nitrate and nitrite as well.
Yes.
But the fluctuation, the sudden drop in the pH, temperature and all that hazardous ammonia level and stuff like that, it's got a large influence on fish. So your fish can take ammonia up to 5. But still, it rises slowly. And when you bring it back, that's the trick. When you bring the filter back, bring it slowly up.
Okay.
You don't want a sudden spike in any water fluctuation.
Correct.
So after the potassium treatment, obviously your filter's got a knockback. But in a mature filter, it's only a slight knockback. So just slightly increase the feeding day by day. And by the time on the 5th day, call it the 2nd week, your filter is back to square one because you've got an already matured filter system.
Okay.
And I mean, to kill a filter with X amount media in it, it's going to take about 3 weeks constantly medicine to kill all that filter media.
Right, I'm with
I mean, that stuff also getting evolved and getting, how can I say it, putting strain against any chemicals. So they're evolving as well. By adding the chemicals, they're also getting resistant and say, you're not going to destroy us.
Right.
So you'll quickly learn by your fish behavior how they're feeding and constantly checking your water parameters and bring the two together. And that's why I'm saying gradually invert your creasing after it. Not dumping all the food like you did in the past. Because every chemical will have an influence on the filter.
I like what you're saying. That makes perfect sense to me of what I've picked up in
Yes.
the industry.
Yeah.
Your favorite, I notice, is definitely Gosanki. Why Gosanki?
Yeah, I think it's how they develop on the end of the day. You get your sashi, which is underlying here, and it's a bigger challenge. And like I said to you today, there's not a single kuaku or sanki or showa that look exactly the same, like twins.
Yes.
So if you buy the fish and you look at the pattern and you look at the sumi development and the yi pulling back and form a nice scalation on the fish, it's a goal that you receive and think, yes, can you imagine how that colors develop on the end of the day? Yes. And all that sashi is pulling back and make they call it the edging effect on the pattern.
Yes.
A single color koi is nice to have. It's like a flower that, what do you call it when you, a ryker soos jy randskik.
Yes.
What do you call it in English?
Flower arrangement.
Flower arrangement. You need to have yellow in your pond.
Sure.
But by the end of the day, the yellow is getting boring and you're back to Sankey and Kuaku and Showa because that's the stuff that's winning the prize, and that's the stuff that you can see the developing and how the fish is evolving and the black and, developing and the patterns pulled together. And I mean, there's nothing like it. Huh?
It's actually interesting that you say that, and we were discussing it again today, that the Japanese have a saying that you start as a beginner with kohaku and you end off as an expert with kuaku.
Yeah.
So it's exactly in line with what you're saying.
top of the range. Now I think what makes it more difficult for us to find a good Sankey. For yourself that's been in Japan, how many good Sankeys do you see?
Yeah.
And for us to predict the future of a Sankey or a good Showa is much more challenging
Correct.
than doing it in a Kuaku.
Yes.
A Kuaku can have an excess, what do you call it, red on the scales where the pattern goes 2 scales longer.
Right.
But by 3-4 years old, and you see that all that color is pulling back into the original pattern in. By buying a Sankey, it can have all the sumi on the Tosai and Nisai, and by 4-5 year old, all that sumi is gone. So it's a much more challenging game to find the right Sankey and Showa than buying Kuaku. So by the end of the day, basically it's easier for us to buy a Kuaku. It's more predictable than Sankey and Showa. But still, Kuaku is the beginning, and I think on the end, you still prefer the Kuaku. I mean, look at the All Japan and most Kua shows. Who's winning the shows? The Kuaku.
Yeah, Kuakus, yes.
Yeah.
What is your preference? Hard water, soft water?
It
pH?
depends what's in your pond.
Ah, there we go. That's a good answer.
Like Isa was saying, he's the best, for me he's the best Showa breeder in Japan. Then Dainichi, and then you can look at all the other breeders breeding. But he's got a pond for Showa, and he's got a pond for ponds. I call him pond, but ponds for Kuaku.
Sure.
And hard water for sumi developing, Sankey and Showa. And on your Kuaku you want the soft water.
Right.
But unfortunately, we as hobbyists haven't got the space and the water, so we must be coming in between. So don't be on too hard side, don't be on the soft side, because when you're coming to a pH on 6.5, 6.8, which is the Japanese is running, you're on the borderline.
Correct.
So if that pH has got a sudden drop any further, you can lose all your fish. So what do you prefer? You've got the sumi there. It's not spot on or the brightest as can be, but it's there. But you can relax, and you know your fish is living a healthy life. So you need to make the choice. Am I going to keep Showa or Sankey or Kuaku, or going to keep everything and living between the lines?
That's very good advice that you give, because, you know, the people starting in the hobby just love to have a wide variety, first of all, to see what their preference is going to be.
Yeah.
I must tell you that when I was in Japan, I tested the rainwater, I tested snow, I tested the water running off the mountains, and I tested the pond water, of course with their permission, and I found that 6.5 was the average there.
And that's low.
It's low. So all I was trying to do is to marry up when a fish arrives in South Africa. It's a different country, different climate altogether. Now all of a sudden you put a fish and you introduce a fish into an 8 or a 7.8 or a 7.5. It's a dramatic change. Never mind municipal water with chlorine in it. The Japanese have never experienced chlorine in their water.
I don't think they even know what chlorine is.
They don't know exactly, let alone the poor fish. So you're already on the left foot. So from a quarantining perspective, we were talking about it, how critical it is to have the slow changes. Whatever you do, you've said it a couple of times, I think, in the interview. A couple of times now that you've said that there must be a gradual change, otherwise you shock the fish.
Yeah.
And you may not see it now, but you're going to see it down the line, because it's already created a problem.
Yeah.
Super. Steve, I want to thank you so very much. You know, mostly because of your kindness in the industry and your willingness to share. Just moments ago, you were helping another person, you know, in a different area from you, and or far away, shall I say. And your openness to give advice, and your openness today for us to actually come and enjoy and understand what it is that you really do. We greatly appreciate it, and you know, we really honor the work that you do, and many people appreciate the fact that you where you are at the level in South Africa, and so many people you know aspire to the work that you've done. And the interview, that's why we've interviewed you today,
Yeah.
is to share that,
Yes.
which is exactly what's your heart's desire. So we honor you, and we thank you so very much for your time.
No, the pleasure is mine. As long as everybody can learn from it and take it forward from there. Like I was saying today, you can buy all the books in the world, but nothing comes down to your own experience and learning from people that's in this game for a very long time. That's the only way. But thanks for coming. It's enjoyable, and we can only take it forward from there. And thanks to you for all the efforts that you're putting in and bringing this whole game back to where it was in the past. So
Thank you
thanks
so
to
much.
you as well.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Okay, then.
Well, folks, from an expert, I hope you enjoy and that you've learnt a lot, because I certainly have learnt a lot today as well. Please push the notification button and to subscribe as well. Very, very important, so that you can learn from a lot more exciting episodes that lie ahead. Thank you.